Fantasy football streams of the week for Week 8, looking at quarterback, tight end, and defense and special teams. Derek Carr faces the Colts, who allow the 14th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. The last 2 weeks, Carr has been the quarterback 10 and the quarterback 9 for fantasy football. Derek Carr has been passing for high volume the last 2 weeks with 50 and then 55 passing attempts for 353 and 301 passing yards. I'm getting spicy here. Maybe this is for a deeper league, but Kenny Pickett faces the Jaguars, who allow the 7th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks and allow the 2nd most passing yards per game this season. Kenny Pickett has yet to have a big fantasy football week. He's had 2 top 15 weeks, but we're waiting for that breakout game, and it might be this week. Pickett threw for 230-plus yards for the 3rd time this season, last week with a season high in his completion percentage. He did lose Pat Freiermuth to the IR again, but Deontay Johnson has been back to pair with George Pickens. Trey McBride faces the Baltimore Ravens, who might not be the best matchup, but he's been trending up the last 2 weeks. He's played 58% and 53% of the snaps and been targeted 5 and 6 times. He had 62 receiving yards in Week 6. This guy had a big pass-catching profile as a prospect, and now Zach Ertz is on the IR. Michael Mayer faces the Detroit Lions, who allow the 3rd most fantasy points per game to tight ends this season. He played 81% and 71% of the snaps the last 2 weeks. He's had 10 targets across these 2 games combined. Big Week 6 for the rookie. He flashed in that one, caught 5 passes for 75 yards. And the plus is that Jimmy Garoppolo is expected to play in Week 8. Jimmy G's had a history of utilizing that tight end. Atlanta faces the Tennessee Titans this week if you're looking for a defense and special teams. If Ryan Tannehill sits, apparently Coach Vrabel suggested that both Will Levis and Malik Willis will play at some capacity. Tennessee is already generating the 5th least total yards per game and 8th least points per game, so we're going to have 1, maybe 2 backup playing in this game. Atlanta opened up the season with 2 interceptions versus the Panthers. They had 5 sacks in Week 6 against Washington, then had an interception and 3 sacks against the Buccaneers last week. The Seahawks face the Browns. The Seahawks have recorded 3+ sacks in 4 straight games. Back in Week 4 against the Giants, they recorded 11. Yes, 11 sacks. They face the Browns that are going to be led by P.J. Walker, who has completed 52.9 and 46.9% of his passes the last 2 games, with 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in them. Follow the Fantrax page for consistent fantasy football content.